Rabbi Zeldin was a great teacher of Jewish texts. So I thought tonight, what would be more fitting than to share a text that I really love. It's from Pirkei Avot, which is a Mishnah, part of the Talmud, which means it goes back somewhere between 1800 and 2100 years ago. And the more I studied this text, the more I came to realize why I thought it was particularly appropriate for tonight. I'll share why a little bit later. In this text, Shimon ben Zoma raises 4 questions and offers 4 responses. I like his questions. I love his responses. The first question that he asks is, Ezehu Chacham, who is wise? And at first blush, we might respond, someone with a lot of wisdom. Ben Zoma's response is, one who can learn from others. It shows the importance of intellectual curiosity and especially being open to others whose views we may not particularly share. If we want to learn from others, if we're serious about it, then it's important to engage with people who have differing religious views, differing political views. It's important to read things that differ with us. So for example, if you read the Wall Street Journal editorial page, which is more conservative, leans to the right, it's important also to read the New York Times editorial page, which leans differently. And similarly, if you only read the New York Times editorial page, I invite you to also read the Wall Street Journal editorial pages, because how often do we read journals or speak to those or watch television that doesn't necessarily reinforce our views? In addition to learning from others in that regard, as Jews, we should learn from our most sacred text, the Torah. And when we learn something from the Torah that may challenge our thinking, don't dismiss it, delight in it. In fact, it may make you rethink your ideals. You know, Jews often say how much they love Torah, right? We all say we love Torah, we embrace Torah. But the rubber meets the road when you learn something in the Torah that seems to go against our thinking. So rather than dismiss our holiest book that's been around for 3,200 years, my suggestion is to grapple with it. Is the Torah always right? Well, I'll leave that for you to ponder. But what I think is right is to appreciate there's great wisdom in our tradition that may transcend our contemporary thinking. And that's a beautiful way to understand Shimon ben Zoma's understanding of wisdom, one who learns from others. His second question, Ezehu Gibor, who is strong, to which he replies, one who can say no to himself. And I would add to herself as well, of course. He's teaching here about the importance of self-control, because self-control makes for both a better human being and it makes for a better society. How often do we hear the phrase, just follow your hearts? But it turns out, even ironically, in this week's Torah portion, Shlach, it teaches us exactly the opposite. It reminds us, indeed it implores us, not to follow our hearts or our eyes because it will lead us astray. It's not always good to follow our impulses. Take one example, anger. If you showed anger to your boss every time you felt it, you've probably had a lot of jobs in the last few years. And the same thing is true with anger in your home. There's a time for it and a time to curb it. And learning to say no to too much chocolate is probably in your favor as well. Having self-control will lead you to a happier life. In fact, I dare say I don't know anybody who lacks self-control who I think is happy. That's why Shimon ben Zoma teaches us who is strong, the person who can say no to themselves, who has great self-control. It's a great lesson for us, for our children, and for our grandchildren. And the third question, Ezehu Ashir, who is rich, to which Ben Zoma responds, one who is happy with his lot. One who is happy with his lot. It's natural to think of rich in terms of finances, and yet there's a good chance you know someone who you may consider to be financially rich, but aren't happy with what they have. Being content with one's lot is a key to happiness because it's a caution against envy. It is absolutely natural for us to see someone else who has a great car or a great home or a loving relationship with their spouse, and we might conclude, gee, I envy them, I wish I was in their shoes. Yet there's a very good chance you don't know all the aspects of their lives. They may be facing a health issue, or perhaps they have a great job but struggle in their marriage, or have a poor relationship with their children. If we knew the entirety of another person's life, there's a good chance we wouldn't want to switch places with them. Just read the biographies of Hollywood stars or other people with great fame and great fortune. Many of them face a lot of sadness. If you're prone to envy, this is something that may be very helpful. It's okay to desire a certain aspect of another person's life without wishing to be them. And don't forget, applaud your own successes. Maybe you don't live in the neighborhood that you most prefer, but you raised your children to be good people, or to have faith in God, or to embrace and celebrate their Judaism. That should be an extraordinary source of joy and make you very happy with your lot. One other thought. Being happy with your lot doesn't mean you can't want for more in life. Doesn't mean you have to be complacent. Those desires for a better job, a nicer home, better relationships, to be a more decent human being, those desires often compel us to get ahead. The key is to be happy with what you have and who you are and still reach forward. And those who achieve that balance are very rich indeed. And finally, the fourth question, Ezehu mechubad, who is honored? To which Ben Zoma replies, those who honor others. The Hebrew word for honor is kavod, but kavod also means heavy, because showing honor can sometimes be onerous. It means we have to focus on the other, while it's natural to focus on ourselves. Shimon Ben Zoma is teaching us the importance of celebrating the achievements of other human beings. We're all aware of the commandment to honor our parents, but there's also a commandment to honor wisdom and to show honor to the aged. And there's a teaching that we should honor our teachers. I was taking a tour of an Orthodox day school with a headmaster not too long ago, and as we walked into every room, all the young children stood to show honor to him. There was something very beautiful about that. 4 questions and 4 answers from Ben Zoma. Earlier I shared with you why I found this text, the more I studied it, to be particularly appropriate for this evening. Let me share with you why. Because as I reflected on each of Ben Zoma's responses, it struck me how Rabbi Isaiah Zeldin embodied every single one of them. Ezehu Chacham, who is wise, one who can learn from others. There were few who did this more beautifully than Rabbi Zeldin. I remember asking him regularly, what do you read, Rabbi Zeldin? What do you read? And he always said to me, every week, I read the Torah portion. His intellectual curiosity, his desire to learn from others and from the Torah was unending. Ezehu Gibur, who was strong, one who can say no to himself, in other words, who had self-control. Rabbi Zeldin, in my experiences, exuded self-control in his personal life and in his drive. I remember Beverly and I were out to dinner. I'm certain you'll remember this. At a restaurant with Rabbi and Mrs. Zeldin, Florence Zeldin, both now of blessed memory. The restaurant was called Tiramisu. It was on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks. It's not there now. At the end of a beautiful meal together, we ordered dessert, and he wasn't eating any. So I turned to him and I said, Shai, I always insisted on first name, but Shai, no dessert for you this evening? He said, David, tomorrow morning I'm seeing my cardiologist and I'm having a blood test and I want my cholesterol to be as low as possible. Ezehu Ashir, who is rich, one who is happy with his lot, to which I added, you can be happy with your lot and still strive for more. That was Rabbi Zeldin. He was a man of contentment, with great pride in which he achieved, yet he never stopped reaching for more, whether it was creating a new high school at the age of 72 or meeting with a young couple and bringing them into our synagogue. His drive never diminished. And the fourth question, Ezehu Mechubad, who is honored, those who honor others. There were so many accomplishments here, but Rabbi Zeldin was always gracious. If you would point to something, he would say, yes, but none of it would have happened without, and then the litany of names would flow. He knew how to honor others. For me, this association with Rabbi Zeldin is an extraordinary honor. I am humbled. I very much appreciate it. It's a little out of my comfort zone because you have to know, every day that I drive up here, I feel honored. Every class I teach, and certainly every time I stand on this pulpit, I can't tell you how seriously I take this podium and the work that I do here. So if you'll indulge me with a few thank yous, they're 15 years overdue. To our board of directors, you are an extraordinary, supportive, and appreciative group. Thank you for this honor and for supporting our temple and our schools. To Steve Fishman, our outgoing president, what a gift you have been to this congregation the last couple of years. And to Jeanine Kolodny, our incoming president, I am certain you will lead us with equal thoughtfulness and great grace. To our congregants, you are why we are here, and you love our temple, and you love our schools. And for rabbis and cantors to know that and to feel appreciated is worth everything. And speaking of rabbis and cantors, to Rabbi Yoshi, a heartfelt thank you. This is an exceedingly exciting time to be at Stephen Wise, and you deserve a heap of credit for all of that. And to be your partner among so many other partners in this endeavor, I don't have the words to tell you how grateful I am to you for that. To my more recent colleagues, to Rabbi Noble, Rabbi Laufer, Cantor Lutz, how fortunate I am to have such talented and thoughtful clergy alongside. A special appreciation to Rabbi Hersher. I saw you when you walked in. To Rabbi Hersher, you brought me here, you supported me. I will always remain grateful to you for that. And to Matuka Benjamin, who was unable to be here tonight, who taught me so much and did so much for this magnificent place. To Rabbi Stern and to Cantor Lamb, colleagues who have been with me, we've worked together since the day I walked into this place. You are trusted colleagues. We've shared so many good times. I turn to you both for counsel all the time. How fortunate I am, how blessed I am to have colleagues like you in my life. You mean the world to me. To the men and women who work here every day as teachers, as maintenance men and women in administration, thank you. And finally, more personally, to my family, to my children, Josh and Daniel, you know how I feel about you. You know how I love that you love Judaism. I know that you know that I love you for your love of Israel. And mostly, I'm really proud that you graduated 6th grade here. That, graduates of Wise School in Amilken, that's a big thing. Rabbi Yoshi mentioned my father, Sam, of blessed memory. My dad lost his parents. Some of you know, but most of you wouldn't. I don't speak about it very often. My dad lost his parents in the Holocaust and 4 of his 5 siblings in the Holocaust, and he spent his teenage years in Dora, in Buchenwald, and in Bergen-Belsen. He was liberated on April 15th, 1945. My father experienced the unimaginable and never lost faith. And I know that he would have found this evening to be equally unimaginable because it's an experience of unimaginable joy. To my mom, you are remarkable. You are absolutely remarkable. She is also a graduate of Melton, and she was the commencement speaker. Pretty good. Your love is unparalleled. I hit the mom and dad jackpot. It is a privilege to be your son. And I know I disappointed you. Forgive me for not becoming a senator. But turns out Judaism is my calling. And to Beverly, my wonderful wife, my dedicated partner, who manages to balance motherhood, a very serious professional schedule, and who always has understood that there are times when I need to be here and need to be with you, and I have to tell you, and this is the absolute honest truth, she has never said anything but how much she appreciates our temple and values so many of you as our friends. And finally, one last thank you to God for bringing everyone I just spoke of into my life, and honestly, for everything else. Traditionally, one recites the Shehechianu for the first time on any given year that something has happened. For example, the first night of Hanukkah, or if there's a seasonal fruit or vegetable that you're enjoying for the first time, you say a prayer of gratitude to God for bringing you to that moment. But it seems to me at this season in my life, 29th year I'm beginning as a rabbi, so I figure with your permission I'm about halfway through. At this season in my life, it seems appropriate me to recite that prayer of gratitude. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. And if I may, as Rabbi Zeldin would often conclude his sermons, thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom.